everyone, and welcome back. Ready to dive in? You know how we do. Let's get right to it. Introductions. Welcome to Diccion Cultural Connections, the podcast where cultures come to life. Every conversation brings a new story and a new discovery. I'm your host, Taylor, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Alex. Together, we'll explore the unique traditions and ideas that shape our world.
Thanks, Taylor. At Diccion Cultural Connections, we dive deep into different cultures. We explore everything from ancient traditions to the latest innovations. You'll get a fresh perspective on the world around you. This podcast is part of Diccion Creative Language Solutions. We offer services in translation, sourcing, teaching, consulting, and more. We adapt to our clients' needs and help them reach their goals, no matter the language or the challenge. So what are you waiting for? Make sure to follow us at Diccion Creative on social media and never miss an episode filled with inspiration and global connections. Whether you're passionate about language, curious about culture, or looking to expand your perspective, Diccion Cultural Connections is here for you.
Okay, get this, today's deep dive. We're tackling Chinese culture.
Wow, jumping right in.
Right. I figured, why ease into it? It's a huge EE topic, gotta be honest.
No kidding. But that's what makes it so fascinating.
Really.
Right?
And it's not just like ancient history, though obviously that's a big part of it.
It's how that history is baked into everything about China today.
Yes. I mean, even just thinking about it, right? You've got those images, dragons, emperors, all that almost mythical stuff.
Really like something out of a movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it gets me every time how it's not just fantasy. It was a real civilization, huge EE impact.
Totally. And you can't separate that from modern China.
Yeah.
At all. It's all connected.
This podcast episode I came across, Unveiling the Wonders or something. That's what got me thinking about it again.
Oh, yeah. What did they dive into?
So they had this expert on, and they were saying how we all have that kind of romanticized view of ancient China, which is cool, but...
But there's more to it.
Exactly, like real depth. The expert was talking about dynasties lasting centuries, philosophies that influenced, like, billions of people.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it, the scope.
Okay, so they mentioned the Xia dynasty way back, like 2100 BCE, as the very start.
Right, the very beginnings.
But then they jumped to the Han dynasty, which was, what, 206 BCE to 220 CE? Why that one?
See, the Han Dynasty, that's when things really shifted. That's when Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, they all kind of took hold.
All at once?
It wasn't overnight, but yeah, that era was huge E for them
Yeah.
becoming intertwined. And it's not just like religious stuff, it was practical.
Yeah.
It's how they structured their government, their whole society. Personal ethics, family life, everything tied back to these ideas.
It's wild, right? Stuff from thousands of years ago, still relevant.
Wild is an understatement. Confucianism, for example, respect for elders, hard work ethic, you still see that strong in China today.
It makes you think about the power of ideas, huh? Like, what leaves a mark?
For sure. And speaking of leaving a mark, can we talk about the Great Wall for a sec?
Gotta, right? It's almost cliche to bring it up, but come on.
It's iconic for a reason. That scale, it's just over 4,000 miles long. You imagine that?
No, seriously, put that in perspective for me, because my brain can't even...
It's like building a wall from, say, New York City to London.
You're kidding. Okay, now that is impressive.
Right. And it wasn't built all at once either. Started with the Qin dynasty around 221 BCE, but each dynasty after, they added to it.
So it's not even one wall, really. It's like layers of history all mashed together.
Exactly. Each dynasty putting their own stamp on it. And just like those dynasties stuck around, some Chinese traditions are just as strong today.
And when you talk about traditions sticking around, I mean, Chinese New Year is like the first thing that comes to mind, right?
Oh, for sure. The dragons, the fireworks.
The whole vibe is just so cool. Everyone should see it in person at least once.
You know what most people don't realize, though? It's not just one day.
Wait, seriously? I thought it was just like, bam, New Year's Day, done.
Nope. They call it Spring Festival traditionally, and it's a whole 15-day thing.
15 days. Okay, hold up. What are people doing for 15 days straight? That's wild.
So, from what I gathered, it's all about family coming together, huge meals, honoring their ancestors.
Makes sense. New beginnings, all that.
Wipe the slate clean for the new year. And of course, you've got the whole zodiac animal thing mixed in there.
Oh, yeah, right. Each year is one of the animals, right?
Exactly. 12-year cycle, each animal brings its own energy, influences the year.
So, like, if you're born in, say, the year of the dragon...
You've got certain traits, maybe some extra luck. Who knows? Depends on what you believe.
I kind of love that. Built-in excuse for good days and bad days. Haha. But you know what always gets me about cultures? Food, man.
Can't go wrong with food.
In Chinese food, come on, it's legendary. Though I'm sure like everything else, there's way more to it than we see here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're just scratching the surface with what we get in most restaurants outside China. The real deal is something else.
Okay, so what they recommend trying from the podcast if you want that real, authentic experience.
All right, get ready for this. They were raving about something called xiaolongbao.
Say that again slowly.
Xiaolongbao. They're like soup dumplings. Imagine biting into a dumpling, but then it's got this burst of savory broth inside.
Get out of here. Okay, now that is something I need to try.
Right. And obviously, no trip to China is complete without Peking duck, the classic.
Always a good choice, though, right?
This podcast, they called it an art form. The crispy skin, the tender meat. Apparently, it's serious business.
You're killing me. I'm starving now. I need to book a flight ASAP, clearly.
Haha, worth it. And to top it off, they said authentic jasmine tea is the way to go. Completes the whole experience.
Man, I am El Sol D. You know, it's funny, though, how food can be such a gateway, to understanding a whole culture better.
Totally agree. It's like this universal language we all speak. Food. No matter where you're from, you connect over it.
For sure. Speaking of connections, though, we got to talk about how China went from, like, dynasties and delicious food to this global superpower seemingly overnight. It's kind of mind-blowing, right? We're talking about ancient traditions 1 minute, then bam, global superpower the next.
Right. China's really gone through a whirlwind of change, even just in the last few decades.
Talk about a transformation. And the podcast, they were talking about these mega cities, Shanghai, Beijing, like those names alone scream futuristic.
Yeah, they live up to it. Constantly evolving, pushing boundaries.
And then you've got the tech scene, which is like, come on, Alibaba, Tencent. These aren't just Chinese companies anymore. They're global players.
Exactly. And they're not just competing with Silicon Valley. They're often leading the charge in things like green tech, AI, even high-speed rail.
It's like they took that ancient wisdom, that long-term thinking, and applied it to like the cutting edge of technology.
Exactly. It's a really interesting blend you don't see everywhere. And it's not just the tech world either. Think about their art scene.
Oh, right. I was curious about that. We always picture like calligraphy, those classic paintings, which are gorgeous, don't get me wrong.
Timeless, for sure.
But what about the modern stuff? What are Chinese artists doing NW?
That's what's so cool. They're really pushing the boundaries of what art can be. Mixing those old techniques with totally new ideas.
So it's not like they're stuck in the past at all.
No way. It's like they're taking their heritage and running with it. The podcast, they said it's a really exciting time to be into art in China. Super dynamic.
Man, that makes me want to see it for myself. Okay, so big picture time after all this. What's the main takeaway about Chinese culture?
I think the biggest thing is China defies expectations. It's not easily defined. It's got this incredible history, obviously, but it's also so forward-looking. That mix is what makes it so fascinating.
Well said. I feel like we just dipped our toes in the water here, and it's already blown my mind.
That's the thing about a place as rich as China. There's always more to explore. This was just the starting point. Hopefully it gets people curious.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, if anything we talked about piqued your interest, do yourself a favor, go down the rabbit hole, learn more. It's worth it.
And just like that, we've reached the end of another incredible journey here at Diccion Cultural Connections. If today's conversation sparked your curiosity or gave you a new perspective, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs a little culture in their life.
Absolutely. Remember, culture doesn't stop when this episode ends. Keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep those conversations going. The world is so much bigger than what we know, and we're just getting started.
And that brings us to the end of today's adventure. We hope you're leaving with a fresh perspective and a little more inspiration to explore the world around you. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Diccion Creative, where we share even more cultural gems. This is Taylor and Alex. Thanks for tuning in, and we can't wait to share our next journey with you. Until next time, keep seeking out those connections and experiences.